Hi guys, so welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to talk about limits on polynomials. So before we begin, let's talk about some of the properties on limits which are very important for the next coming videos. So here if we have two functions f of x and g of x and they both have limits or both of their limits exist at a certain number, let's say a, and limit is existing for when x approaches a, then keeping that in mind we have some of the properties from that. So let's begin with the first one. You can also pause the video and just write down those properties on your notebook. So let's begin with the first one. We have when we are adding those functions and we have to find the limit of the addition of those functions, we can also write it as individually and find the limits individually of those functions. So we have two functions here, we can do that individually as well, and then finding the limits, adding those limits up, and then getting the answer. So similarly, if we are subtracting the function and we have to find the limits when x approaches a certain number, we can do that individually as well. We can find the limits first and then subtract the limits later. And then the third property we have, if we have to find the product of the functions and we have to apply limit on that, we can also write it as individually and find the limits first and then multiply the limits of those functions. And similarly, same goes for the division part. We can individually find the limits for numerator and denominator and then divide the limits. So these are some of the important properties which one has to remember. So I hope you have noted down in your notebook. So let's go ahead with the limits of polynomials. So to better understand the limits including polynomials, we'll just dive into a problem and then find the solution. So here we are given a polynomial, right? So degree is 3, is the highest power is 3, so degree will be 3, and you have to find the limit when x is approaching 1. So here in this function they have not said anything about a continuity or the discontinuity of the function, right? We don't know where it will be discontinuous. Is it continuous at 1 or not? So we can assume when nothing is given, we can assume that it will be continuous at 1. So that means we simply have to put the values. We have to just substitute x for 1 and get the answer. So substituting x for 1, we have 1, right? So minus x squared will be minus 1 plus 1, we're getting the answer as 1. So it's as simple as that. So moving on to the second question, we have limit x approaches minus 1 and this series is given here and we have till x raised to power 10. So how to find it? So here we know that we just have to simply substitute the values, right? Minus 1. So substituting the values till here, we have like for x we get minus 1, for x squared we get plus 1, and for x3 we get minus 1. So here we can see a pattern that for a given pair of number we are getting plus 1 and minus 1. See, for even number we are getting plus 1 and for odd we are getting minus 1. So all in all these two will be 0, right? So any pair will be 0. So from x4 to x9 there are 6 numbers, so we can group them into 3 pairs, right? So all those 3 pairs will be amounting to 0. So we don't really have to calculate those. They are 0, and then we are left with x10, which is an even number, will get plus 1, and then this and this will be 0, this and this will be 0, and we are left with 1. So here the answer or the limit will be 1. So I hope you're enjoying the videos, and if you have any comments, if you want for me to make videos on more topics, just comment below, and thank you for watching.